All right, work. It's not exactly a word that we've got positive associations with, is it? It's something we complain about, it's something we dread on a Sunday evening. Yet it's such an important part of who we are that when we meet someone for the first time, what we want to know is, what do you do for a living? And even though we say we dream of this utopia where we're never going to have to work again, we still have this societal fear that one day robots and automation are going to come and take away all of the work. It's something we've been told to fear. It's something we've been told to fear since the days of the Industrial Revolution. But here's the thing, the robots have already taken all the work. Robots can grow our crops, they can build our shelter, they can make our clothes. All the things that are necessary for human survival. Yet here we are, still standing, still working. If we really hated work that much, wouldn't we have focused on our efforts on automating all those basic tasks for survival and then just sat back and relaxed? And sure, nothing is completely autonomous. It would require some level of human intervention, but not 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Couldn't we just work enough to cover our baseline requirements? But the thing is, every time we've automated jobs that we require to help us in human survival, like agriculture, we've found something else to do, like doing our taxes, which, I'm sorry, but I don't see this as overtly necessary even today. So if we're technically not working to survive, then why do we work so much? The answer to that question is relatively simple and almost kind of depressing. We need purpose, we need to win, and we need social interactions. 3 attributes that partly define who we are as humans. So could you imagine a life where you only had to work 10 to 15 hours a week, waking up every day and having virtually nothing to do? It's not that much of an impossible dream. Most of the animal kingdom seems pretty down with it. I mean, bears hibernate for months on end, big cats just laze around in the sun most of the day. It's looking pretty good to me. However, humankind just doesn't seem to be wired that way. We need something more than going through those motions of basic survival. We really don't handle boredom well. We need purpose. We need something to get ourselves out of bed every day, and work, it gives us that purpose. We actually crave the mental stimulation that we get from problem solving and from creativity. You just have to look at people who haven't needed to work and how they actually spend their time. Elon Musk made enough money from the sale of PayPal to just, stop. But instead, what do we have? We've got Tesla, we've got SpaceX, we've got SolarCity, we've got the Hyperloop. And look, he's an extreme example of a serial entrepreneur, but he represents something in all of us that craves purpose. They actually did a study, now's the right time, they actually did a study on people who'd won the lottery, and we're talking about people who've got an average earnings of $3 million. That's a pretty damn good pay packet. These people literally had the opportunity to win the lottery and quit their jobs. But what did the vast majority of them do? They kept working. Most of them actually kept working in the exact same job. The thing is, as a society and a developed nation, we've had this choice for a number of decades now. Do we focus all our attention on automating those tasks required for survival and minimise human work? Or do we create new things to do? And while that choice has never really gone to a referendum, it's a choice we're making unconsciously, because we choose a life of purpose, so we're choosing a life with work. Now, some of us aren't as driven unless there's a carrot. We need a reward. We have this innate desire to level up in the game of life. If you think about it, most of us, if we really wanted to, could retire a lot earlier than we're going to. One catch, you need to stop buying the shit you don't need. But the fact is, we like those tangible rewards we get from work. We like the cars, we like the jewellery, we like the experiences we get, the holidays, the dining out, being the one who gets to shout the round of drinks on a Friday. Now, everyone is different. Maybe you're the type of person who can imagine a life where you live off the land and don't get the latest iPhone. But if you look around you, you'll find that you're actually in the minority. And the thing about things, one day. The thing about things is there's no such thing as being done. I've built up my career in marketing and advertising, 2 industries that are dedicated towards manufacturing desire so that you always crave new things. And as we move up in our lives into different salary brackets, our expectations, they change. So as our standards change, our expenses change, and we're not very good at trading down. As they say, life is a game and money is a way of keeping score. The idea of retirement was to work until you had enough money to fund the rest of your life. But instead, what we're doing is working until we either mentally or physically can't. Michael Jordan didn't retire after he'd earned $1 million. He kept playing. and we keep making that choice. Every time we buy something we don't need, we're choosing work over lifestyle. So we're driven by purpose, we're driven by a need to win. What else is there? Surely it's not that one-dimensional. Now, work is an exchange of labour for payment, but money isn't the only thing we get from our workplaces. We also get social interaction. Now, humans are pack animals. Even though some of us in the room probably like to think of ourselves as lone wolves, we tend to form tribes. Even going for a coffee run tends to be a social activity. And as a society, we've designed life around being part of groups. Who actually decided that schools were the best way to deliver education? Maybe we'd have a smarter society if we were all homeschooled or had one teacher per student. But that's not the way things are. Instead, we've got a life where we've got clubs and social clubs, we've got fitness groups and sporting teams, we've got countries and nations, United Nations Union, European unions. Whether we're conscious of it or not, we keep putting things into groups because out of groups we get social interaction. Because of work, every day we get to spend time with like-minded people, people who might share our interest in numbers or the way things work, people who we get to talk about ideas that might be of absolutely no interest and bore the minds out of our family and friends. But through work, we get to meet people and share those experiences with them. When I was at university, I had one of those really boring cashier jobs. But what was interesting is that a lot of the employees were actually retirees who returned to work for 2 or 3 days a week. Not because they necessarily needed the money, but because they missed the social interaction. When you take work away, we lose close to 40 hours a week of social contact, and that's not that easy to replace. Even as we've seen this shift towards remote working and freelancing, we've seen a growth in co-working spaces, because even if you need or want to work alone, you don't want to be alone when you do it. So we've established that work isn't something that we need to do, and it's fully plausible for us to live a life where we only have to work maybe 10, 15 hours just to cover our baseline requirements. In fact, an economist once famously predicted in the 1930s that this is exactly the way society was heading. But as good as that sounded in theory, what he failed to take into account is the fact that we need purpose, we need to win, and we need that social interaction. Those 3 drivers will keep us working. So if that 15 hours a week is enough to provide us to what we need to survive, then what does that make the rest of that time? Does that make that a luxury good? And if someone asks us how we are we really complaining about how busy we are? Or are we actually kind of boasting? So if we aspire to a life of working, a life of busy, rather than leisure, perhaps busy is the new rich. Thank you.